Marianne Bachynski, tell me about your vision.
Well, I guess my vision is really to help people handle the complexity and the uncertainty that we all are dealing with in the world, and will continue to deal with the rate of change, and with the speed of change that we live in. It's become normal. It's not going to slow down anytime soon, and I've been fortunate enough in my career to really live through some extraordinary situations and transformations and innovative opportunities that have trained me how to deal with this kind of complexity and change.
That's amazing. And I'm actually really excited to come back to that point. I'm going to do something, though, that I don't do for hardly any authors. And now, Marianne, she's an author. She's got a book coming out called Fit for Uncertainty. And I am so excited that you have planned this book launch out well, that you have it in pre-order position on Amazon. So many authors, visionaries, they're the same thing, in my opinion. They blow it when it comes to marketing and when it comes to positioning their book and letting people know what's coming out. So this book called Fit for Uncertainty, you had a certain marketing plan, a confident marketing plan, but you launched it in a world of uncertainty. And it's something that, as you just talked about, we are all facing more and more of this reality of like, oh, what's going to happen next? So yeah, tell me about your background. You've worked at great companies that people are very familiar with. You've got a father who also was a great mentor to you. What things helped you get to the point where you could launch this book so confidently?
I was, had the incredible opportunity to have a father like I did, was such a mentor, and a mother, frankly, who was an incredible female, fearless, badass leader, who also was a great mentor. But the people I worked under were incredible visionaries of their own, and I was given opportunities to basically do a startup embedded in a large firm. Be involved in integrating 5 companies after a merger and acquisitions of these firms. So, building a culture from scratch, basically, and blending the cultures and picking the best of each culture, spinning off a company and standing up a brand new publicly held company. All of these things really were so transformative in themselves, but also transformative to me as a leader.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned mom in that as well. It's one of those things that in our first meeting really attracted me to. I was like, man, I don't get to meet enough people in life that have that strong nuclear family. And that, they were able to learn from both sides. You mentioned to me as well, the emotional intelligence that your father had before his time. That is such a unique perspective that's kind of hard to portray. But if you could speak to that a little bit, this is going to be so hard to do, but what stands out to you about how the world was and how your father was, and how can that be applied to the younger entrepreneurs today that they've got to face leadership challenges, and they've got people from the old world and the new world to be able to talk to? What have you gleaned from your exposure to emotional intelligence?
Well, I honestly, I think that none of this is new, right? And we should always have led this way, with emotional intelligence and being adaptive and being, having humility, all of those types of characteristics. It's not new. And I think so. For me, I learned that at such a young age because I saw 99% of the people were doing it wrong in my mind, and they had no following. People were so dismissive, and they had no time for these leaders because they didn't respect them. And then there was this one person that was operating completely differently, and these people would have followed him off a cliff because they knew that he cared about what they had to say. He included them in the mission. They mattered in his eyes, and he wanted to make them better. It was, that's where I learned that leadership is about what you can do for your people, not what your people can do for you.
That's huge. And so again, to me, it's like living that book, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, where you get to see the world from one perspective, but you get to see how your father was doing things to build relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
so while it's not new per se, that's something that should have always existed. We have decades and centuries
We do.
of difficult leadership. I'll call it that. Right. Of stories that don't sound at all like what your father was able to create. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about the book while we're at it. I want to hear the synopsis and what the basis is.
Well, when I started writing it, it was I was really more thinking of a collection of different things, and this it's important to do this, it's important to do that, and then as it evolved, it turned into 6 principles of adaptive leadership in a sense, and they all overlap too. So it's not a sort of you do A and B, and then tomorrow you do C. They're all interconnected, and it was from reflecting on what worked, what mattered, what made us successful. Things like cultural transformation and effective communication, adaptive mindset, all these things. And it's today more than ever, if you take one of them, take effective communication, it's absolutely critical for people to not just connect on a human level, but to understand the big picture, understand the mission, understand why they matter,
Huge.
How they can have impact. People want to contribute.
Yep.
You need to open the door.
Absolutely. As leaders, we definitely need to do that. We're going to come back. I'm going to ask about the 6 principles as well. And I also want to dive a little bit deeper into some of those companies that you got to work with. That we can know which ones they were, what type of role you had. And that will all help us understand better, how you ended up with such an amazing concept in front of you. So we'll be right back, guys.
All right, welcome in to Vision Pros Live with Jackson Callum. I'm your show host. We will be doing interviews for visionary entrepreneurs and guest leaders who are building fantastic visions out there.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business, and I've got Marianne Bachynski on the show today. She has decades of experience in business, technology, the financial sector as well. And what really drives me to pay attention to what she's up to is not just the way she holds herself in classy fashion, the website she has, and the book launch she did. All of those things were elements that made me say, wow, this person's got a depth that is just, it's a rare gem. And it turns out that she's got 2 amazing parents who also helped her a lot. And that's something I don't take for granted as somebody who has a single mom of 6 that raised me, and she did an amazing job. But I've found that people who have the stabilization of parents often have life secrets and insights to life that the rest of us sometimes don't get to learn about in the same type of fashion. And so she's going to be teaching us a little bit about emotional intelligence, leadership, and again, how to be fit for uncertainty in an age where AI is changing everything. Countries are changing. The name of gulfs and oceans are changing. Like, what's not changing today? And so there's so many opportunities there. And as I get ready to bring Marianne on, I want to talk about some of the resources that can help you in addition to emotional intelligence. So if you're struggling with health at all, or you have a wife or family member who is, I recommend checking out journeytowellnessplan.com. Dr. Shannon and Dr. Justin Pierce have been friends of mine for over 8 years. We've looked at working together many times. Only 6 months ago did we decide to do so. But even before that, I had a couple of friends and family members that had some conditions or health ailments that were considered impossible to cure, things that you just can't get help for. And I heard that Shannon was kind of the miracle worker. So I sent 3 friends to Shannon, and all 3 of them, when I followed up, all came back with, oh my gosh, like, she's changed my life. She's helped me in ways that nobody else has. So I'm not a doctor. I can't endorse this from a medical standpoint, but I can say if you're in a position where you feel hopeless on the health side, definitely see what Dr. Shannon Pierce can do, because she's amazing. Then there's Practice Makes Permanent with Jennifer Reed. Practice Makes Permanent is an organization where Jennifer sets up a facilitation, or rather a workshop that she facilitates to help companies with cultural development and leadership development as well. She specializes in EQ and SQ. As we talked about, we're talking about emotional intelligence today. She also brings spiritual intelligence into the mix. And her story is super inspiring. I won't ruin the story. I highly recommend asking Jennifer and anybody that you're going to work with in relation to these things, like what qualifies you, what in your background has made it worth dedicating your life or your effort to these realities. And bring a Kleenex box. You're going to need it. That said, in terms of her preparation, I like to poke fun a little bit about her circumstance because she's worked for more than 20 years in an organization that I think would be one of the hardest, in my opinion, to build culture and to build EQ. So she's been testing in the battleground of the IRS of all places. And then lastly, there's the Water Project. The Water Project is something that we contribute to on a monthly basis. It's something that I've never been thirsty in my life. I've always had access to water. So when I came across it, I had to choose to meditate. I had to choose to say, you know what, I want to know more about this. And as I got to know about the Water Project, I realized there's kids in the world who have to leave school to go find water. And there's all sorts of things that can happen to them when they do that. Or there's parents that rather than being reliable and responsible for work, well, they can't. They have to go find a source of water for their family. And so when you choose one of the projects you want to dedicate your finances to with the Water Project, even if it's just $10, they will show you what project they're building, and they show you how they bring it to fruition, and you ultimately make an impact on a tribe or on an area where people will have access to water for generations. So I think it's one of the coolest things. There's 8 billion people to help in this world. If you can help with that, fantastic. If you don't have the finances to give back, my hope is that you'll talk to your friends and family about it. And just talk about it over dinner, bring it up. Or if you have a cause that you'd rather see us support, then drop the cause in the comments. I'll take a personal look at that. I might even include on the show. But at the end of the day, we're all about giving back. So let's give back to you as well and go right back to Marianne's story about emotional intelligence, leadership, and how to fit into this world of uncertainty. Marianne, thanks for being on Vision Pros Live.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the book side of the vision, and we know that you want to help people in this world of uncertainty. Let's just elaborate a little bit further. How big can this vision go? What is it that you want people to achieve with it? And how can these principles perhaps make an impact on their lives?
Well, I guess it does start with my foundation, like you said, and I know how lucky I am that someone's the great question, if you could choose your parents again, would you? And mine would be yes and yes, which I know is extraordinary. So I think part of it is helping people create a foundation of calm and confidence and courage, right? To build off of, because that can really stabilize you in an uncertain world. It's interesting because if you ultimately can make it habit on how you approach adversity, or how you would approach solving a problem, or how you approach helping somebody else, all these kind of natural things that you should do as part of being a partner at work or in a community. I think it's being able to create them as a rinse and repeat habit. They're your go-to reactions in in difficult situations. So it's a playbook in a way, on how to deal with what life throws at you.
Huge. Absolutely. Let's review these 6 principles as well. Are you okay with revealing the 6?
Okay, yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, get my list. I don't forget. Number 1 is strategic leadership. And that is really about, I would tie it to your question, what's your vision? What's your purpose? But in the context of a corporate world, it's what is, what's the mission? What are we all trying to achieve? What the what and the why.
Yeah,
basically.
Very good.
And that's something that, again, in the world we live in, is not going to be a 2-year plan. It's going to be a 2-month plan.
Right.
I think number 2 is an adaptive mindset. And that, again, we touched on a little bit, but it's really this ability to pivot and to change and to reprioritize and to address your resources and, take the players off the field and put them in a new position or fill that gap, if you're missing something.
Yep.
And number 3 is humility and empowerment. And that, again, is really about being a more of an authentic leader, active listening with your people, empowering them to act. Number 4 is accountability and focus. And that, again, is definitely needs to be habit. It's taking ownership of what you are responsible for, and also being accountable to help the broader group of whatever group you belong to. But staying focused on the outcomes you're trying to achieve. And that's really, again, you're balancing a strategy with detailed tactical execution. You're turning probabilistic into deterministic action. The next one is effective communication. And that is probably one of the most critical, as particularly in the world we live in, because, again, you have to keep making sure people are clear of the mission, the what and the why, and also the how. And then when there are changes, you have to be, it has to be transparency about what we're trying to achieve, but also what may be going wrong or what has to change. I heard a great quote about the cost of silence. And if you're managing a project or managing an effort of some sort, and people don't feel free enough to speak up about that they need help, or that there's a problem if we don't do something different, or there's a decision that needs to be made, the cost of that silence can be huge.
Massive.
Yeah. And then the cultural transformation is sort of an umbrella over all of this, right? It's in order to create the right culture that allows for experimentation, that allows for transparency and trust, that you can have effective collective intelligence, on and on and on and on. But obviously the culture is the heartbeat of any organization.
That's amazing. I love that all 6 of these are actually principles, like the principles that we can actively pursue in our own lives. With or without the book. I mean, we can do a ChatGPT, but I do highly recommend Vision Pros that you lean into mentors when they're available. If I could have James Allen by my side every day, I would. Unfortunately, he died in like 1840. And so, that's somebody who I don't have access to, but you can imagine what types of results you could get if you were to work with people like that. So I highly recommend checking out what Marianne's up to. These principles are very aligned with what we're building at First Class Business. Effective communication. I'm glad you alluded to what can be a reality with that. I'm reading in Spanish right now. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I'm like, so sad I didn't learn about this earlier, but I posted about it on Facebook the other day. And the first comment that came in was one where somebody's like, it's not as general as men and female. And like, they were like offended by the post, the reality. And I'm like, okay. All right. I didn't mean to create a political battle just by pointing out a resource, but that's kind of to your point, Marianne. We live in a world where there's so much misinformation and there's so much opinion, so much polarization that people are struggling to value contextual education. And as leaders, if I don't learn how to relate with people who maybe kick against the pricks, as they say, or are going to fight a situation or going to find a reason to be upset about something, then it's only going to limit my ability to be able to lead others. And so there's a huge opportunity associated with this. And so, my friends, it's not just enough to know the 6 principles. It's also to know, how does this apply to me? How can I use these principles for my life? And I'm sure the book dives into great detail. And then again, my secret back to you, connect with the author. Connect with the author. She's got the source of all the things that she created there. So if you are, if you are concerned or you're excited, about diving better into uncertainty to unlock results for your vision, then we have somebody that we can lean into, and I will be doing just that. We're actually going to have Marianne back on the show real soon so we can dive in deeper into one of these particular subjects that we can help everybody out with. We'll go live. We'll be in for about an hour on that show. But before we wrap up today, Marianne, if this is your last chance to be on a podcast, your last chance to share wisdom with the world, what would it be?
Meet people where they are and communicate your thoughts in a way that they can hear them, not in a way that you want to say them.
Oh, I like that. Vision Pros, I hope we meet you where you are. And I hope that I continue to work on how to communicate what it is that you need. That's what this is really about. And I hope you return the favor. If you want to join us on this show, in the top right corner, there's a button that says Be Our Guest. Just click on that button. Come and join me. If you've got something that you're hoping to help the world with, even if it's a small group, or if it's a larger group and you're planning on publishing a book, doesn't matter where you're at in that stage. We'd love to see you on the show. And we'll see you guys all in the next episode. Marianne, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.